everybody, and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Don Arleth. On Thursday, the Polish and Vietnamese prime ministers announced plans to step up bilateral ties after talks in Warsaw. Poland is home to a Vietnamese population of up to 50,000 people, one of the largest non-European communities living in the country, and the fourth largest Vietnamese population in the European Union. Trade between these two countries has boomed last year by 14%, reaching billions of dollars. To further explore this relationship, I'm now joined by Hoang Xuan. I think I get this right. You're from the Polish Asian Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
Yes, now Poland and Vietnam also celebrate 75 years of relations. Historically, what has really bound the two countries?
I think that those two countries, Vietnam and Poland, have a lot of similarities. A lot of the history was full of wars. So the constant fighting, the constant fight for the independence, that's what made two countries very close to each other, because they understand each other very well. And also, both Vietnam and Poland, in recent years, they have both been growing. Their economy has been growing at a steady growth. And both are, Vietnam now is in a very similar place that Poland was not a very long time ago. So that's why they can still learn a lot from each other, especially Vietnam, how to grow their economy, copying the Polish model. And also there are a lot of potential in terms of growing the trades, the bilateral trades between two countries. As you said, last year it was like $3.4 billion, but both the Prime Minister of Poland and the Prime Minister of Vietnam, they agreed that reaching 5 billion in a very short term is feasible, because Vietnam and Poland, or maybe Vietnam and the European Union, have signed the free trade agreement a few years ago, and in my opinion, it still hasn't reached its potential.
Right, so still a long way to go and a lot of room for growth. Poland, I don't know how long you've been here in Poland for, but you know, Poland is home to over 50,000 Vietnamese citizens who call Poland their home now as well. What do you think makes Poland so attractive for Vietnamese people to live here?
Thank you for asking. I've been living in Poland for more than 30 years.
Okay, all right.
35 years to be exact. Or no, sorry, 36 almost.
Okay.
And in my opinion, but historically, the Vietnamese, they arrived in Poland like 60 years ago, long before I was born. The main objective, but the main aim of their arrival to Poland at that time was education. There are a lot of students, now the graduates of the Polish universities, and those were the first between like the 60s and the 80s, 90s. They were the students, or some arrived in Poland for the bachelor degrees, some for master degrees, some for PhDs, but they were the foundation of the current Vietnamese community in Poland. And I think that what attracted and what maybe still attracts Vietnamese to come to Poland, to live, to work, to study, is a very similar mindset, because both were under the very similar political system. That was one thing, but also the modern Polish society, the environment, the economy, is something I think that really attracts people to come and live to Poland. in terms of culture, we can talk about the openness of the Polish people, especially since the Poland joined the European Union. They have been even more open than, I don't know, like 20 years ago. And it's still a good place to grow the businesses, because the most of the Vietnamese community, most people within the Vietnamese community in Poland are still small and medium enterprises. So I think that's probably is the main reason why they come to Poland.
Yeah, now what about Poles in Vietnam? And what is the perception of Poles there?
I don't know the exact statistics, but the Polish community in Vietnam is much smaller than the Vietnamese community in Poland. I think that it's, maybe you have the numbers, but I think that and those, I think this is the different dynamic. Why? Because from my experience, my personal experience, the Polish people that come to Vietnam and they decided to stay is mainly because of the culture. Because Vietnam is very open to foreigners, because as you can see, according to the statistics about the travel, Vietnam is one of the most visited destinations in Southeast Asia. And after they experience the culture during their visits, they decide to stay.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to trade. And, 14% last year in growth alone. What are the main Vietnamese exports here to Poland? And what are some of the exports or the products that Poland specializes in sending to Vietnam?
I think that Vietnam's exports to Poland, and maybe I think it mirrors the general export of the Vietnamese product to European Union. Most of them are still electronics, textile, but also the growing segment is the agriculture and seafood products. And those are the most discussed topics between Vietnam and Poland. Also, Polish export to Vietnam consists mostly of the agricultural product, from what I know.
Right.
And those are the products that are very close to citizens, to people, to consumers. They are the most discussed products that both Vietnam and Poland always talk about during the official visits.
Right, and Poland's looking to expand its export markets for agricultural products. It seems like Vietnam will be a natural fit. Foreign Minister Sikorski was in Southeast Asia earlier this year, visiting Singapore, the Philippines, Malaysia. And of course, they're looking in those areas to boost as well. Now, what areas do you think between the two countries are the most ripe to boost bilateral trade other than agriculture? Are there some other areas that seem interesting to be explored right now?
Yes. During the visits of the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Mr. Pham Minh Chinh, and the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, and the other representatives of the Polish government, two sides, they also discussed the other areas that they want to develop the relations and cooperations. Those are, for example, digital infrastructure and cybersecurity. Those were artificial intelligence, some blockchain infrastructure. Those are the future areas of very high potential, and they were also discussed between two governments.
When we look at the tensions between China and Vietnam,
yes.
Does that maybe open the door for better relations between Poland and Vietnam due to the kind of will to displace some of the dependency on certain Chinese goods?
I mean, China was, and probably still will be the largest trade partner of Vietnam. So And what you are asking, I think it can be related to not only to Vietnam, but probably to a lot of countries in the world right now. Because dependency is something that all the countries try to avoid. Diversification, and it's also something probably very loudly discussed right now. And I think that Vietnam is no kind of exception. It will continue to have the relations, probably very strong relations with China, but at the same time will try to diversify their businesses and their economy with other nations.
Right, and there should be, it seems to me that there would be somewhat of an increasing demand from other countries to produce things in Vietnam and to do more business with Vietnam. So is the outlook for economic growth really ripe in Vietnam right now?
I mean, in the last few years, especially after the COVID, the growth was like between 5 and 7%. The Vietnam's target, last year I think it was something like 7, and the aim is to continue at least the growth at this rate. As I said before, Vietnam is still in terms of the growth rate of the economy, is still a few years like Poland
still
was.
In the early stages.
Yes, it's still in the early stage. So this growth is expected, this growth is feasible, and I think that a lot of countries, not only Poland, see this potential, and that's why they invest. There are a lot of examples of the Polish companies that invested and they achieved success in Vietnam, like Adamant Group, I think, in recent years.
Now, what about the Polish presidency? Will the Polish presidency and the EU serve as an opportunity to increase trade with the whole entire European Union?
Yes. Those two governments, during this discussion, they also underline this potential. For Vietnam being the gate to Poland for the ASEAN market, and also for Vietnam having Poland as its, let's say, the trade hub to enter the European Union market. The presidency, of course, it's very important and should be remembered. But I think that what really attracts Poland as being a hub for Vietnam and other countries when they want to enter the European Union market is its infrastructure. It's I think one of the location of the Poland is very important. The logistic centers, the infrastructure, those are end of competitive cost of those warehousing and logistics comparing to Western countries is a key factor for Vietnam to consider when they consider Poland or consider any locations to be its hub for entering the European Union. But presidency, it's a nice thing, extra thing. It will be an additional boost to do it.
Yep, certainly. Okay, well, let's look forward to this blossoming relationship in the years ahead. Hoang Xuan, thank you very much for joining us today from the Polish-Asian Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate your thoughts on the matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.